Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by Michael Cohen. You know, Cohen, as we reflect on this episode, we're past the 4th of July. It's July 9th right now. I just think about what a pivotal moment we are right now in American history. I reflect upon the elections abroad in France when everybody was saying Marine Le Pen's right-wing rally party was going to win. I reflect about what happened in the UK with a massive victory there by the Labour Party. And I reflect upon what's happening right now here in the United States of America, where there's been so many mask-off moments for corporate media, where you and I were wondering, we were saying, why for 3.5 years are they not talking about Epstein? Why aren't they talking about the fact that he's changed the lyrics of the national anthem and sings it with the J6ers? Why is the corporate media not calling Donald Trump out at his speeches when he talks about being a dictator, when he's almost giving verbatim quotes of Adolf Hitler? Why are we the only ones doing it? And as we see what's been happening over the past several days, particularly, I mean, this corporate media is like a bunch of hyenas out for blood when it comes to President Biden. And as you and I have said before, look, I think it is absolutely fair to be critical of President Biden's debate performance. It is absolutely fair to give it attention, to deal with it, to have a realistic conversation about it. But I think it is critical that you contextualize it in what President Biden's done over the past 3.5 years, and the level of outrage that we show to one thing needs to be compared to the level of outrage that we show to other things. So to me, when I think about a bad debate performance, but a great presidency, and I compare it to Donald Trump, and again, we don't hear a peep about the Epstein list stuff with Trump's name being all over it, Trump trying to overthrow our democracy, Trump saying he wants to be a dictator, Trump calling the insurrectionists patriots. It's not even a close comparison, and the media pays zero attention to what's going on with Trump. And I think it's important, Cohen, on this specific episode that we address that more than ever, because it's actually a bit of a sobering anniversary today. It's the 4-year anniversary of the unlawful constitutional remand that you suffered, where you were thrown into solitary confinement because you refused to waive your First Amendment rights. And you were thrown in to solitary, became a political prisoner. And apparently right now for the Supreme Court, that may or may not be okay. So I want to address that at the top of the hour, because that's what's at stake. Project 2025, which Trump wants to call it Agenda 47, which is the same exact thing.
Trump just wants to put his name. Ben, I just want to jump in for a second here and say, one of our brigaders, Janet, just turned around and she put in a sentiment that's actually shared by so many that are with us, that are part of this community. And when you said that the way that the media has been handling and treating Joe Biden, that they attack him vociferously, whereas Donald gets a pass, despite the fact that once again he lied to the American people. Every single time that he opened up his mouth was a lie. And what Janet turned around and she said, and that's why that they come here. That's why they enjoy the Midas Touch Network. That's why they enjoy Political Beatdown or Mea Culpa or Legal AF or the Meiselas Brothers. That's why they're coming to this network, because what we do is legitimate and fair. We're not actually looking to make points with our advertisers, because there are no shareholders that are, receiving dividends or need to be paid dividends, right? We do need to keep the network afloat, and that's why we do have our sponsors, but we're not catering to our sponsors, and we're not listening to the things that they want. That's what they're doing. They're trying to keep you glued to the television set by coming up with these fake bullshit polls, by turning around, attacking Joe Biden. I have never in my life seen a bunch of wolves attack a man who's credentials, despite the fact that he is old and he looked terrible. Not Ben, not I. Nobody on this network has turned around and said to you, ignore your lying eyes. He was great. He knocked it out of the park. He looked great. He was doing jumping jacks. You're not going to get that bullshit here. You're not getting it from me. You ain't going to get it from Ben, and you're not getting it from this network. And that's why this network and Mea Culpa and all of the other podcasts on this network are actually really doing incredible. It's why, in fact, my YouTube, The Michael Cohen Show, we just turned 52,000 subscribers. And by the way, subscribing there is not, there's no fee to it, but 52,000 subscribers in a period just under 2 weeks with over 1 million views. You know why? Because of what Brigadier Janet was just saying, which is from us, you get the absolute truth and nothing but the truth.
You know, for 3.5 years now, all we've heard, literally right after the January 6th insurrection, the media began with their polls and their polls and their polls. And they pushed these polls as President Biden did not inherit what Donald Trump inherited, where former President Barack Obama turned over a booming economy, stability, and things going well. President Biden inherited the most difficult situations. You can't get mad at the firefighter for the fire, or at least get mad at the firefighter for the fire right away when the firefighter's putting out the fire. And meanwhile, the arsonist stood back, and that's Donald Trump, and started giving, all of these bizarre campaign events. The first one, Michael Cohen, was in Waco, Texas on the 30th anniversary of the Waco siege, showing alignment with the Branch Davidians and attacking the FBI. They had Ted Nugent was the first person who led the event before Trump spoke. Ted Nugent started screaming that President Zelensky is a homosexual and he's stealing our money. That's what was the kickoff event for the Trump campaign. And you and I were calling this out. We're like, what in the world are you talking about? What's even going on here? And then they did the J6 anthem, where they replaced our national anthem with a song by the J6 choir. Then
they didn't replace anything. They didn't replace anything that deals with our beatdown brigaders or you and me. They could replace whatever the fuck they want. I don't care if they replace it with Donald farting into a microphone. That's not my national anthem. Our national anthem is our national anthem. And these bunch of assholes can try to change whatever they want, the same way that Donald is going to try to change the Constitution. That's why, my friends, we have to fight. We have to fight like hell at this ballot box, because this is the crazy shit. This is the crazy shit that Donald wants to do. And Donald is now empowered. Ben Wood brought that up about today is the 4-year anniversary. The 4-year anniversary of my unconstitutional remand. I want to be clear about something. They lured me down to 500 Pearl Street. That's the criminal court here in New York. All right. Who did it? The corrupt and autocratic president wannabe, real Donald Trump, who weaponized the Justice Department through his piece of shit Attorney General, the bloviated Bill Barr. And they remanded me for refusing to sign a counterfeit document. I showed you guys the counterfeit document, no identifiable number attached to it, nothing. It's not grammatically correct. There's spelling mistakes. In fact, the entire layout is completely cockeyed. And I refused to sign it because it violated my First Amendment constitutional right. And when we asked them, myself with my buddy Jeff Levine, he's a lawyer, Jeffrey K. Levine, I asked him to come with me because everything seemed wrong about me even having to go there instead of going to the GEO office in the Bronx like everybody else. They had the marshals waiting for me, 3 marshals. So when Donald turns on, they remanded me, handcuffed, shackled me, put me in a freezer, sent me back to Otisville for another 16 days in solitary confinement, 51 days of solitary confinement. So when people say, hey, you mad, Michael, you mad? Yeah, I am. And I'm mad because I'm afraid. I'm afraid that what they did to me, that they will be able to do to you. And there's no way in the world that I'm just going to sit back and say nothing and do nothing and allow this sort of bullshit to happen again to other people. When he starts calling for tribunals, right, for televised martial tribunals, where he wants to execute Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, General Milley, jail people like, the president of MSNBC and a whole bunch of political critics and so on, Mark Zuckerberg. Seriously? And this guy's even in the running, and he is going to be the nominee for one of our two political parties? Seriously, this is like, where you smack yourself in the head and you say, I wish I had a V8. What the fuck?
Well,
what are we doing?
Let me answer. Well, let me answer
doing?
that. And let me answer that, because when you look at some of the polls internationally, right, at least in countries that support democracy, it's not even close, the support of President Biden over Donald Trump. When you get into some like Hungary and Tunisia, I think are the only countries that support Donald in this Pew Research poll that had more support for Trump over Biden. But when you start looking at like Germany, UK, and other places, it's like Biden up 38, Biden up 40. So the question is, we're all humans, right? So why is it that in Europe or Canada, they see it, but we here in the United States don't? Or at least there's a massive portion of the population that is into this Trump MAGA stuff. So what is that variable? What is the difference? And it's kind of what we started with. It is a very toxic corporate media environment that is not left-wing controlled. All of that crap that left-wing controls the media, it's BS. You have Fox, which is owned by the Murdochs. You have Sinclair, which owns most of the local stations, which pump all the right-wing disinfo onto local TV almost each and every day. Donald Trump today was praising CNN. He said he likes CNN now better than Fox. And frankly, CNN's treated Donald Trump incredibly over the past few years. And, and we've seen specifically what they've done in the past few weeks. Even MSNBC, other than Lawrence O'Donnell, other than a few other, Rachel Maddow, and maybe a few other hosts as well there, it is also not really out there chanting democracy. They're putting guest after guest on who they're cherry picking to go after, President Biden. So we have this toxic media climate that consistently projects disinfo and just doesn't talk about the facts. Doesn't talk about the fact that right now, by all of the objective metrics to which the presidency was always rated, whether you want to talk about GDP growth, whether you want to talk about job growth, whether you want to talk about low unemployment, whether you want to talk about energy independence, whether you go through every metric, and not only is President Biden doing a good job, but a great job. And then you go to the 1 week metric, which is the fact that, again, we're not going to close our eyes and close our ears to the fact that there was inflation, but through the Inflation Reduction Act and through actual policies by President Biden, he's reduced inflation to levels where wages are exceeding inflation. And then you have to have educated conversations about, okay, where did inflation come from? It's not just like a storm that builds and happens. It's not like President Biden said, hey, come here, inflation. We were getting out of COVID, which was horribly mishandled by Donald Trump. Trump increased our debt more than any other president in the history. 30% of all debt from Donald Trump. Trump mismanaged the PPP program, printed all this money, prioritized giving money to rich people, not middle class and the bottom up, middle out with people who need it. That's just the basic recipe in economics 101 for what causes inflation. And thankfully, we had President Biden not say what Donald Trump does, oh, like a miracle, it's all going to go away. President Biden, Michael Cohen, responsibly addressed it, confronted it, recognized that there was a problem, didn't tell us to ignore it. He hasn't tried to bully the Fed to prematurely lower interest rates. He's handled it in a responsible way. And for that, the media is like, wow, this is what they said yesterday. I'm not sure if you saw it with Karine Jean-Pierre in the press conference.
I did.
Where they said, well, Donald Trump did more press conferences than Biden. Donald Trump came out, and Karine Jean-Pierre goes, you remember what he said to you, though, right? You remember what he was saying. Inject bleach. He's not going to have a peaceful. But wasn't that the most revealing moment of all, Michael Cohen?
Yeah, it most certainly is. You know, I'll tell you something. I have on my podcast coming up this Friday, Anthony Scaramucci. By coincidence, Scaramucci was the second guest that I had when I started Mea Culpa 4 years ago. And in it, he made an analogy. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody, the subscribers and the listeners or the viewers, but it was such an incredible analogy that I want to give it to our brigaders. He turned around and he said, just imagine the way that people are describing what's going on in our world right now as it relates to Trump and Biden, the two candidates. So imagine that there's a movie house and it has two theaters in it. And theater number one is showing the movie Weekend at Bernie's. And then theater number two is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Which theater are you going into? Which movie do you want to see? And the answer is, you may end up leaving that theater altogether. And what I'm saying is that is the most dangerous thing of this entire conversation, is the apathy. Oh, Joe Biden is old. Yeah, that's true. And he's barely able to move or speak, or he doesn't remember anything. But the other guy is a fucking liar that he doesn't say anything, even though he's not getting ripped to shreds like Biden is by the media. So you got One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest versus Weekend at Bernie's. It's the apathy. You have to remember, you really have to remember that there is a real organization behind President Biden, an organization of people who are committed to the American people, to ensuring that our needs come before theirs, that our needs and the country's needs come before their needs to fill their pockets and to line their pockets. We end up with a Donald Trump administration. Every single person there is going to be fighting and jockeying for what they can steal from this country and from others. It is a fact. And one of the crazy things, and I don't understand someone like a Mark Zuckerberg. There's people like Michael Cohen that Mark Zuckerberg should be speaking to. And the fact that you have a guy like Elon Musk who thinks that he is going to be, let's say, off limits, all right, when Donald, or God forbid, if Donald becomes president again, let me be very clear, and you are hearing it first here, all right? He will come after Elon Musk's money, all right? And what he will do will all depend upon just what kind of a sick, ridiculous mood that he's in. He will have him sign over all of his stock, all of his cash. He'll leave him some money, like Mohammed bin Salman left members of the royal family with some money. He will leave him some money, but he will cast him out, but he will take everything from him. He will take everything from the Bill Gateses, from the Zuckerberg. He will take it from Elon Musk. And these folks, from the Paulsons and all of these other folks, all these big hedge fund guys that think that by siding with Trump, that they are going to be able to amass even greater fortunes. And I'm telling them, bullshit. Those days are over. He used you, you used him during the first run. This is a whole new ball of wax, my friends. And they better be scared, because I am warning them. I know him better than they do. I don't care. I don't care what he tells them. It is a lie. He will come in and he will take everything from them.
Let's take a look at that moment yesterday where during the press conference with the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, here's the exchange with the media saying, but Trump would come out and speak to us more. Here, watch this.
What they have done. To be more clear, George W. Bush and also President Obama. So we've been.
One did let his donors come to the briefing room to speak to us.
Okay, and we know what that last president said from this briefing room. Okay, so and only did three or four paragraphs. Very different approach.
Yeah, let me say something, because I watched that entire thing as well. First of all, they were brutal to her, but that's okay. That's actually her job. We saw them doing it to Sean Spicer. We saw them doing it to Kayleigh McEnany. We saw them doing it to everybody. Every White House press secretary gets the shit kicked out of them at these things because, there are things that they do not want to talk about, that they just keep pressing and pressing and pressing. And that's the First Amendment. That's exactly the right that you have to criticize and to ask questions about your elected officials. I'll tell you where I have a problem with what happened there. What Biden should have done, what they should have done, knowing that this is going to happen, open that back door, the one that's in the far right, that would be over Karine Jean-Pierre's right shoulder. There's a door there that leads to the Oval Office, right next to the Oval Office. Biden should have come out. That's what he should have done. Jumped up onto the stage and turned around and said, I'm sorry. What issue do you have with me? He needs to show that he is not Weekend at Bernie's. Look, none of us are going to be able to forget what he looked like on that debate stage. I don't care what anybody says. Look, I am riding with Biden so long as Biden wants to be on that ride. But the problem is you cannot undo what you saw. Nobody can. And the fact that we're allowing Donald Trump to escape the responsibility of lying to the American people at whatever the fuck they want to call that thing. It wasn't a debate. It wasn't a moderated debate. It was a shit show. It was a reading of questions and allowing Trump to lie about everything. Biden needs to come out now every single day, and he needs to show that he's not just with it, but that he's alive, and that, like he said, yeah, I got knocked down, but now I got back up again. And that's what we do. He needs to show that and generate trust in him for the next 4 years, because he is of age. And I don't know why this administration is fighting the simple fact. Everybody saw what they saw. Don't tell them, don't trust your lying eyes. That's something Trump will do. And if Biden would come out there with the snarky, Delaware guy that he is, I'm telling you, this whole thing, this race would be over, because independents, Democrats, and 30% of the Republican Party do not want to vote for Donald. They're scared shitless of it.
The level, though, of ageism that I've seen, and that's just been normalized and tolerated. I guess in a world where it's normalized and tolerated by the media, when Donald Trump goes into churches and leads curse chants with kids where they chant bullshit, bullshit over and over again in places of worship, and whether you're religious or not. I mean, leading chants like that as part of your political rallies, and even holding the rally in a church.
Right. Tell me that's something that Jesus would do, right?
With curse chants and calling women horse face and doing things like that. But I just think it's absurd to normalize any of this conduct by Trump and this behavior. But this ageism, this attack on, oh, look at President Biden, he's walking, he's an 80. How do you expect an 81-year-old to walk? But there used to be, and there should still be, a respect for those who are older and wiser. And we're going to mock the way someone who's older walks. I mean, what? When has that become okay? So everything he does like that, now the media does those little clips and goes, you see. And the thing is that those clips are not reflective of anything. I'm focused on what his words are. When we clip what Donald Trump is doing, we're clipping him because he's like repeating Adolf Hitler almost verbatim, or he's saying he wants to be a dictator, or he's playing QAnon music, or he's talking about being eaten by sharks or being electrocuted. That's why we're clipping those things to say, why are you talking about these things at political events? But when they clip Biden, they're clipping him to mock him, either because of the stutter or because he's older. And then they just reinforce that over and over again. But Cohen, when you look through the data over and over again, the data also is so inconsistent with the coverage right now. I mean, just take a look at what G. Elliott Morris, just said, who handles all the work for 538. He goes, there's a new chart on the 538 forecast showing the divide between the Electoral College and popular vote for 2024. Currently, the forecast suggests Biden would need to win the popular vote by 2 points to win the election, a decline compared to 2020. And as Mike Madrid, who I think's been so on point about this, former Republican operative, anti-Trumper, but really more just a pro-democracy guy who's very, very smart. When all of this panic was happening, Mike Madrid, by the way, who's been critical of Biden before, he's saying, what are you talking about? Do you see what's going on? The base is rallying around President Biden. There's empirical data that this is actually showing President Biden's support. Yet now the media goes, you know what? We're just going to go with trust me, bro. And they're just only
focusing, Ben, on the 9 Democrats that came out, including the guy who I keep saying that I'm going to run against, Jerry Nadler. And it's funny because Nadler's attacking Biden based upon his age and the fact that, he's having these moments and so on. Interesting 2 points here that I want to make. First and foremost, all right, Jerry Nadler's 78 years old. After that gastric bypass, the Waddler himself has fucked up the District 12 where I live, something fierce between congestion pricing, defunding the police proposals, and 30 years, he doesn't even have an office in the district. His office here in New York is not even in the district. You call, you say you're a constituent, nobody answers, or when they do, they take a message and then you never hear back from them. 25 times I've called his office. What is this guy doing other than criticizing Joe Biden? Absolutely nothing. Jerry Nadler's a total disgrace. And yeah, he should retire. But my point is, all that the media is concentrating on are these 9 Democrats and so on. And you know what? These 9 Democrats should get in line. They should get together, have a conference, and apologize to the president and say, you know what? We apologize. We're riding with Biden. We're with you all the way. Period. End of story. I mean, that's exactly what they need to do. And it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful. If Biden doesn't feel that he's capable of running, no problem. Let him step aside and have a brokered convention. No problem. But that is for him to decide. He is the current president of the United States of America. And you have all of these guys. By the way, they're all a bunch of out the cockers themselves that are sitting there. And they're all saying, oh, he's not doing it. He's too old. And so, meanwhile, nobody's talking about the fact that Mitch McConnell, Mitch McConnell ends up speaking before the world on all the various different stations, and he freezes not once, not twice, multiple times. Did you hear one person call for him to resign, for him to retire? The guy stands there frozen. It is a total mental breakdown. He's having a serious neurological issue. Not one person has called for him to resign and step down. This is the worst attack on a president who is doing so well for this country. He's doing so well. Now, is it perfect? No. Do we have issues? Yes, we do. And do you think that we won't have issues if Trump is president? Did we not have issues when Trump was president? I mean, it's funny. He talks about, Kim Jong-un is my friend, and we would work it out. Really? Because I certainly remember Kim Jong-un shooting off rockets, all right, when Trump was president. I also remember him doing nuclear testing inside that mountain. I remember him doing that inside the mountain when when Trump was president. I'm so freaking angry. I'm so angry at the fact that they are attacking this man. Let him make the decision. It is his to make. He is the president of the United States. And when you have these others that go out there and they start attacking the president, what you are doing is you are destroying not just the chance for Biden to become reelected, but you're destroying the entire down ballot, which will ultimately give Trump power like you cannot even imagine that type of power in that man's hands.
And again, this doesn't mean that we can't be very critical of President Biden's debate performance. You can. You just have to assess data and assess it logically, dispassionately, and then sometimes passionately. But you got to take a step back. You got to go through the different permutations, and you got to reflect upon the Democratic base, what the voters want, what President Biden has actually delivered, the power and importance of incumbency, the fact that President Biden is a decent, compassionate, just overall good person. We have to reflect on geopolitical issues. And you mentioned Kim Jong-un. I mean, Donald Trump seems to boast and brag that his friends are the enemies of democracy, but the friends of democracy he hates and constantly attacks NATO. And over the next few days, there's going to be a major NATO summit here in the United States where NATO has never been stronger in the history of the alliance, thanks to President Biden. Just think about that at a foreign policy, and then also what President Biden's accomplished here. When we get back, I want to talk more about Project 2025. I want to talk about what the media should be focused on. I want to talk about the Trump-appointed judge from Alaska. You hear this story, Cohen. It seems to be a pattern as well, the same way. There's a pattern that Trump's friends abroad hate democracy and are authoritarians, and Trump's friends here and the types of judges he appoint, like this guy, Joshua Kindred, who just resigned after being caught sexually harassing and assaulting his staff. He was appointed to the federal bench by Donald Trump. Seems to be a pattern over and over again. We're not going to ignore that here on Political Beatdown and the Midas Touch Network. We're also not going to ignore our pro-democracy sponsors who make this show possible. Let's take a quick break.
I've been trying to lead a heart-healthy lifestyle, but finding the energy to keep up healthy changes, like exercise, has been an uphill battle. We often think that living a more heart-healthy life means making big, unsustainable changes. With Super Beets Heart Chews, you can get daily blood pressure support in just 2 tasty chews a day. And they even promote heart-healthy energy without the stimulants. So paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone, something that I desperately need. I mean, I feel more energy than ever without the dips that we're all used to with coffee and energy drinks. Nothing is better than supporting my blood pressure and being able to have the energy to make the changes that I know are crucial. So double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews and get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews on all bundles, plus 15% off your first order by going to getsuperbeets.com. That's GETSUPERBEETS.com and using code BEAT, B-E-A-T. That's getsuperbeets, BEETS.com, code BEAT.
So Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs. And it gives you tailored advice to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even stress management. So all you have to do is this. You breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs. Then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for that day based on the measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and your meals so that you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. So let me be clear. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food that you eat into fuel that keeps you going. It can also track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy through hormonal shifts so that you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go right now to lumen.me/beat to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/beat. BEAT for 15% off your purchase. And thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode.
Welcome back. This is Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, joined by our co-host, Michael Cohen. You know, it's so interesting, Cohen. It was probably 9 months ago or so where you were talking about Nadler and you were saying, you know, that he's crap and you were going pretty hard on him. And I actually said to you, I said, look, you know, he's a Democrat. He's been there for a long time. You go, Ben, you don't realize. I know he's been there for a long time. You would say, you would tell me, you said it on the show. You go, you're wrong on this, just so people know we have disagreements. And I would tell you, I would say, you want to run against Nadler. This is what we said privately to each other. I would say, you want to run against Nadler. He's been there for a long time. He's got seniority. I'd said, I'm not really sure that's a good look. And I'm saying this in the interest of transparency so people know the type of convos that we have. And you say, Ben, you don't get it. You'll see. Well, I want to admit I was wrong. You were right, because Nadler was one of the first people to turn on President Biden. And then also when he realized that he was wrong on the issue and that the public was pissed at him from doing it, he flipped right away, scared, because he doesn't have principles. And it pains me to say this because I don't want to encourage, and I'm not trying to be like intra fighting and going after, you know, but you were right. And the way he so quickly turned on Biden, but then flipped the switch when he realized that the public wasn't with him on the issue, it just says a lot about him. So you were right. I was wrong. Let me just show you what Nadler said.
Let me say this. I'll tell you, first of all, you got me so spitting mad. I like spit on myself. I'm so freaking angry, right? And it's like, you know, I'm having a hard time eating. You know, I don't know if I told this to you with all this bullshit. And so I mean, I'm down 30 pounds. And it's like, and I'm trying to eat as much like garbage food as I possibly can, you know, to put back on, you know, some of the weight. There's no doubt in my mind that the reason that Nadler ended up turning, they probably sent, instead of SEAL Team 6 to his office, they probably sent Meal Team 6. Because if you listen to Nadler in his conversation while he was doing a press conference, as if you never see Nadler do press conferences because nobody gives a shit what he has to say. All right. So instead, it's the truth. He's sitting there and he's like, he can't catch his breath. Hey, Joe Biden. Hey, I'm going to stay with Biden. This is not a healthy guy himself. He's never been a healthy guy, but he is a turncoat. And you know what? There's no room right now in our society for people like that at the very first opportunity, they cut bait and they run. Nah, I got a real problem with that. And so does everybody else in District 12. And Nadler's going to suffer for this. Rest assured. One way or the other, I'm going to make that happen. I know I got to eat my heart. I know.
What we should also make happen, though, now is focus on the issues that the American people are focused on, and that the American people are pissed off that the media is not covering. Moments ago, and I want to give him credit here, Congress member Ted Lieu brought up the fact that Donald Trump's name appears over and over again on the Epstein list, in the depositions, in the call logs. If you've been following my social media accounts and the Midas Touch Network, you know on a daily basis, this is something that we cover. Let me just show you what Congressmember Liu said moments ago, and then let's talk about why I think this is an important issue to discuss. Play this clip.
So like Chairman Aguilar said, we hear a lot from our constituents on different issues, but something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. These files were released, and like Donald Trump's sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein with young girls on board. He is on call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing. And again, it shows that Donald Trump is unfit for office. And by the way, he was convicted in a civilian court for sexual assault, convicted in a separate court of 34 felonies. Donald Trump should drop out of the race.
The fact that the media is not even covering that not only is Trump's name on the Epstein list, but it appears over and over again. Donald Trump says that Jeffrey Epstein was a great guy, and he even seems to like girls on the younger side, although I'm not sure if that one's an accurate photo with the girl, but that is Epstein. I'm just not sure if that girl is an accurate one. But there are ones that are accurate. I'm just not sure if that specific photo.
Somebody sent me that today.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that one. I'm not sure if that one's an accurate one, but we know this. I mean, it's a fact. Little girls on the Spirit of New York yacht as part of the Look of the Year competition. Virginia Giuffre, who was trafficked by Epstein, worked at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump's name appears over and over again on the message logs that was recently released in the grand jury stuff with Epstein. Donald Trump's name appears throughout the depositions in the Epstein case. Donald Trump's name appears on the flight logs. We know that Epstein introduced Donald Trump to a 14-year-old girl. And we know that through testimony that was taken at Ghislaine Maxwell's criminal trial. Donald Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well. He said, "I wish her well at her criminal trial," when he was asked about it. And of course, Donald Trump's been found liable for sexual assault. He's on audio bragging about sexually assaulting women. He's on audio saying the thing he has in common with his daughter Ivanka is sex. There's a video with him talking about Lindsay Lohan when she was 18 years old, where he's on audio fantasizing about having sex with her and saying that he thinks she would be better in bed because he believes she suffers from mental illness. And he says, quote, "The ones with mental illness are always better to have sex with," or words to that effect. He's on audio saying that. And you can go on and on and on with these connections that exist. And these aren't like, oh, you're just saying this. Or, I mean, this is a big deal. The leader of the Republican Party has been found liable for sexual assault, which the federal judge said, while there's different technicalities in New York law, it's the same thing as rape. He's also obviously a convicted felon, but in a week where more Epstein files are released and Trump's name is on it, and Midas and maybe a few other networks are the only ones covering that, and you have corporate media focusing on things that are frankly completely and entirely irrelevant.
Doesn't the general character of the person who's running for the office of the presidency of the United States of America matter anymore? I mean, at some point in time, you're right, Ben, every single thing that you pointed out is 100% accurate. All right, there, you don't need photos. And again, I just told you somebody sent me that photo and I was like, holy shit. It's like, I haven't seen that one before, but there are so many photos that are out there, assuming that there aren't any photos at all. We already know Jeffrey Epstein. We already know what he was charged with. We know that Ghislaine Maxwell, his right hand over there, is now incarcerated for luring and for putting young girls in prostituting them out. I mean, we already know. And now we already see on the flight logs, we see on the call logs this relationship that he had. Now, I want to be clear about something because, and I've talked about this on my YouTube channel, The Michael Cohen Show. I want to be clear about this because a lot of people say, Michael, tell us everything that you know about Katie Johnson and so on. And I'm going to tell it to you right now, exactly what I had said before. I don't know anything about it. The first time I ever heard about this, I never met Jeffrey Epstein. I never spoke to Jeffrey Epstein. Only a handful of times did I ever hear his name mentioned by Trump. And it was always that, Jeffrey Epstein, lives in this house on 71st Street, or that Jeffrey Epstein likes really young girls, and that Bill Clinton was known to spend time. Those are the only times I ever heard from Trump mentioning Jeffrey Epstein's name. But here's the thing: when it comes to this whole nonsense, never heard the story about Donald Trump spending time on Epstein's island or flying or calling him. I have no knowledge of that at all. On top of that, I was not involved in this Katie Johnson matter. I do recall that a summons and a complaint came in to the office, and it came to my desk. When I showed it to Trump, he had me turn it over, and I believe it was to Mark Kasowitz, to the Kasowitz firm, in order to handle. That's the extent of my entire involvement. So then people say, yeah, well, you must know about all the payoffs that went on. First of all, I don't. And that doesn't mean it's okay, right, for the allegations. I am not disputing what Katie Johnson is saying. What I'm also not going to do is to validate it, because I personally have no knowledge whatsoever about what was done and what wasn't done. I have no knowledge about the facts. I don't even recall, the full sum and substance of all the averments of the complaint. I just remember reading it, finding it to be disgusting. I brought it to him, asked him what he wanted me to have it done, and it went to outside counsel. That's the extent of my involvement. That also does not mean that Donald Trump is a decent man. It doesn't mean that we should give him a break and not hold him accountable for what was determined to be rape of E. Jean Carroll. It doesn't mean that we turn around and we say that all the others are lying simply because Michael Cohen doesn't know about anything with Katie Johnson. I don't understand this sort of wolf pack mob mentality that it has to be everything, that every single thing that comes out has to be this way. Like, for example, you'll remember during the House Oversight Committee hearing, I testified, and I testified truthfully. And I said that I don't recall, that I know for a fact that those, the P tape, as an example, does not exist. And they asked me, how do you know that? Because I tried to find it. I sent people looking for it. It just didn't exist. Okay, great. So he didn't hire prostitutes to come in and urinate and defecate on his bed. Great, mazel. Boy, this guy's really a beacon of morality. And then there's another question that was asked of me. What about a tape of Donald beating Melania in an elevator? And I said, didn't exist. It's not true. It wasn't real. Oh, again. So these falsities, do they make him a better person? Well, no, right? I mean, it does not make him a better person. It just means that these allegations are just not true. And again, I am not here to turn around to say that Katie Johnson is truthful, that the story is accurate or inaccurate, that she even exists. I don't know anything about this young lady other than to say this is a matter for a court of law if in fact that there's enough evidence and information to hold him accountable. Very much like the way Roberta whatchamacallit did.
Roberta
Robbie's,
Kaplan and the E. Jean Carroll.
Well, same what Robbie Kaplan did for E. Jean Carroll, the same that the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg did, the same that Tish James did. You can hold this man accountable if in fact the facts are all there. And if in fact that they are, it just shows once again that he's a despicable guy. And it doesn't change the fact that he's despicable. Whether this happened or not, it's just another act by him.
Well, look, it's still pretty despicable that he would say to you just kind of randomly when talking about Epstein, that Epstein likes younger girls. I mean, that's like a strange thing for him to, I mean, it's a strange thing for humans to say, not for Donald Trump to say.
So let me push back on that for a half second, because you have to remember Trump. All right. You have to understand that he's the guy who wants to be seen around town as sort of like this virile, studly kind of guy. Remember, the bulk of the people at Mar-a-Lago, the males, are old. They're a bunch of old alta-cacas who made a lot of money. And if you notice, the arm candy that they're with, they're all young girls, high 20s, low 30s, 40 years, 50 years younger than these men. So for him to say Jeffrey Epstein likes young girls, he never turned around and he said 12, 13-year-olds. That he didn't say. But what he alluded to, we all knew, because we all know the story of Jeffrey Epstein. It didn't start and stop with Donald Trump. But you're right. To a certain extent, it's like a weird thing for somebody to say. I've never said it. I'm sure you've never said it.
No, it's just a very strange thing to say, especially someone who's seeking the highest position of our land. If that was in the United States of America, if that was someone running a small business, medium-sized business, large organization, nonprofit, social club, and they're out there behaving in this way, I don't think we'd want to, be around, have them be a leader of that. And we now know these things about him. That's why, there are like the photo that you showed that someone sent you, that one I believe is Photoshop, but it doesn't matter.
All right, that one I apologize and I take it down. I just got it.
Yeah. But the reality is that there are other photos of him, that we show on the Midas Touch YouTube, network, which is his voice. You see him in these are the undisputed stuff in the logs, the undisputed stuff in the messages, the undisputed stuff in the depositions, the undisputed stuff where he talks about inspecting young women at beauty pageants without their consent, or that's him saying it. And, again, the fact that the corporate media doesn't share any of that. Also, what the corporate media doesn't share anything about, in fact, they try to normalize it now, is Project 2025. Have you noticed who on CNN lately and some of these other corporate media networks, they try to say things like, well, actually, Project 2025 is a forward-looking agenda. And actually, Donald Trump is pushing back against Project 2025. No, it's not. Project 2025 is Donald Trump's thing. Donald Trump's press secretary cuts ads for Project 2025. Stephen Miller's like on the board of Project 2025. That guy, John McKinty,
what's his name?
John McKinty, who works for Donald Trump, is basically the author of it. There's Donald Trump and the guy who's the head of the Heritage Foundation on stage, Trump saying none of my agenda, or words to the effect of my agenda is not possible without you. The guy from the Heritage Foundation saying Donald Trump's the one responsible for Project 2025, so it's all out there. And then when you just take a look at what Project 2025 is, and the fact that the media is like, like whatever, like it is what it is. It's about purging the government.
I've been watching MSNBC and they talk about Project 2025 the way that we do. CNN is gone off the deep end. They are off the rails completely. And I'm so nauseated and disgusted. I try to stay off the station altogether. You have Agenda 47 as well. Let me be very clear what Ben is saying. All right. They are out of their minds. And this is a manifesto. Make no bones about it. This is a 900+ page manifesto on how to turn our Constitution upside down, to change our democracy, our democratic republic, into an autocracy, into a dystopian sort of world that's predicated on Christo-fascist ideology. This is really a very dangerous group of people. And you know what? In exchange for their Project 2025 and then talking about all of those that are involved in Project 2025 and CNN and the mainstream media that downplays Project 2025, and they try to make it seem as if though this is fair and legitimate, you get the two-finger salute today. All right? Fuck you all.
As I see the media's coverage now of everything that's going on, I also just reflect about Trump's criminal trial in Manhattan. I just remember those moments where I was watching the coverage and it all seemed to be very pro-Trump coverage. And we had multiple people in the courtroom who were reporting that the exact opposite of what was being reported by the corporate media was happening. And I remember that moment, Cohen, as well, where they were, saying, oh, look, Trump's lawyer got Cohen and Cohen collapsed in the cross-examination. And this was a horrible moment. Look, Cohen's not a good witness. And I heard that at first. And I know lots of people were getting upset. Oh, it's all over. It's all over. Justice isn't going to be served. And so I just reached out to everybody who I knew was in the courtroom. And there was like nearly half a dozen to a dozen people that I knew there. And everyone was like, what are you talking about? Like it didn't even land at all. Cohen was great. Cohen was credible. Cohen was one of the, if not the best witness there, looking at the jury, poised, collected, and the media narrative's false. So then when I would go on and give the report, I mean, there were some people who I think would be skeptical of my reporting because they've heard the exact opposite on what are supposed to be trusted sources. And I said, look, here's what I'm going to tell you. Everyone who I've spoke to who was there told me that it was that's not what happened. Let me bring you the facts. Let me bring you the data. Let's chat about it. And I just see that happening again right now. And as we said before, all of the data is actually pointing to the fact that this is a very winnable race for President Biden, a very winnable race when you especially educate people on what Project 2025 is, what Trump's actual agenda is, when you don't sanitize it the way the corporate media is trying to do. And you just tell people the facts. Hey, look at what he said here. Look at what he said here. Look at what he's saying here. Trump's policies are really only supported if you were to take away Trump, Biden, Democrat, Republican, DR, Trump, Biden, and you were just to present the policies to America. Where do you stand on women's reproductive rights? Where do you stand on gun control? Where do you stand on health care? Where do you stand on veterans benefits? Where do you stand on Social Security and protecting seniors? Where do you stand on issues of education? Where do you stand on infrastructure? Where do you stand on equality, LGBTQ plus rights? Where do you stand on addressing the pandemic? You go through all of those things. Overwhelmingly, 75% would favor what the Democratic pro-democracy position is. So to me, this is actually just about telling the truth. It's as simple as that. I'll give you the last word, Cohen.
Look, there's really, I'm not sure that I can even expand upon that. Yeah, it's this mainstream media like CNN, when they start putting on people like Bill Barr, or they put on Ty Cobb, and they put on that guy Burr, whatever his name is, Turdley, and the whole group of these Trump sycophants. There's no point in watching it. You may as well be watching Fox News or Fox Light. Why they have destroyed this entire network, they have gone. So when when you have somebody like Donald Trump who wants to destroy democracy, it's not me saying it. It's not to be hyperbolic. It's factual. And they're talking about creating a manifesto that is going to, this is the freaking playbook. They've given us the playbook on what they intend to do and what they are doing day in and day out. And then you have CNN validating it. Are we out of our minds? We are validating a manifesto to destroy democracy? What? Come on. What? How? Why? What are you thinking? What are you doing? And it's like, oh my God, I don't even know what to say anymore. How do you get through to these people? And the only thing that they can do, all these MAGA morons that want to troll us, and all of these MAGA jerk-offs that want to sit there and attack you, what do? They attack you like a 2-year-old, or I should say a 5th grader. There's no substance to it. You're a liar. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, you're a convicted liar. Yeah, I lied for Donald Trump. I acknowledge that. All right. By the way, I lied to protect him. So what's your point? The fact that that manifesto doesn't exist? The fact that Donald Trump claims he doesn't know what that manifesto even is? I'm not saying Donald read it. That I could assure you he did not. But what I am saying is he knows enough about it that he does, and he knows what it's designed to do. And the fact that they are okay with this, and the Heritage Foundation, that they're all right with it after 249 years of this experiment, this marvelous experiment called democracy that makes us the most sought after, desired country in the world. Now you want to turn it over to an orange crusted Mandarin buffoon, an Oompa Loompa jerk off? Come on. No chance. Not on my watch anyway.
Want to remind everyone that Michael Cohen's YouTube channel is growing at an incredible pace. So if you're not subscribed to it, it's at the Michael Cohen Show. It is in the description below. Click on the link and you'll be able to subscribe. It's free to subscribe. I want to hit that 100,000 mark in the next week, Cohen. I think we can do it.
We can do it.
So if you're not subscribed, all you do is on your YouTube, you just search at the Michael Cohen Show. Click it. Michael Cohen posts daily, sometimes multiple videos every day. So it's just a place where we can get extra Michael Cohen content out. Speaking about other Michael Cohen content, as Michael Cohen mentioned, a new episode of Mea Culpa with Anthony Scaramucci drops this week. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa Blue audio podcast. Wherever audio podcasts are available, just search Mea Culpa and make sure you're subscribed there. Make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel right here. And if you want to support our efforts as well, no pressure, but we don't have outside investors, so this does go a long way to help this show and this network. Go to patreon.com/political beatdown.
Hey, can we do a Patreon? Can we do a Patreon meeting on Thursday with everybody?
Yeah, let's definitely do it Thursday. Let's talk about Thursday morning or night. Morning may be easier for me, but let's check it out. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Check it out right now. Michael Cohen, thanks as always. Beatdown Brigaders, thanks as always. Shout out to you and shout out to the Midas Mighty.
Boom.